Hello and welcome to Eco-Terrorism. I'm Zeinab Bailoun. We've been hearing a lot lately about the phenomenon of global warming, but how much do we really know about it? Is it all our fault? Can it be stopped? Joining us today in the studio is Mr. Bassam Kantar, journalist and environmental activist, as well as an analyst. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So before we continue our discussion, let's take a look at this first report.
One of the main characteristics of both global warming and climate change is the high increase of global average temperatures. Despite all efforts to put an end to global warming, human activities seem to also contribute to temperature increases. In this regard, human activities add greenhouse effects through which gases such as carbon dioxide gets back towards the Earth's surface and causes the elevation of temperature. The United Nations estimated that due to climate change, 1 of 6 countries face food shortages because of severe droughts. In addition to food shortages, it is found that around 40% of deaths in the world could be attributed to environmental factors, mainly the increase of pollution. Moreover, scientists say that if the world continues to emit carbon dioxide at current rates, the carbon budget will be used up within 3 decades. That makes the business of cutting emissions extremely urgent, as at present, the global output of carbon is still rising. In this context, the international COP19 took place in November this year in Warsaw, Poland, to come forward with targets on curbing their greenhouse gas emissions within a little over a year. Marcin Korolak, president of the COP19 conference, said Warsaw has set a pathway for governments to work on a draft text of a new universal climate agreement. However, is the international deal on climate change within our reach? It is clear now that as the Warsaw climate talks end, the hard work is just beginning.
Welcome back. So to continue, to start our discussion today, can you introduce for us global warming and climate change, and what exactly is the difference between the two?
Actually, the theme we consider it a very new theme, but the scientists have been working on this issue since the 70s. Mm-hmm. But the most highlighted period is after the famous UN scientific report, which started to be published every 4 years in the 90s. And the latest report was published, the first chapter of this report was announced officially last September. And later on there are going to be other reports. The most important thing about global warming now is that no one actually is debating whether this phenomenon is related to human being or not. 98% of the scientists working on this issue is considering that it's something that was caused by the human intervention in nature. Other skeptic scientists is relating more and more this issue to other aspects, but actually most of their theories are science fiction and they cannot prove.
So what does this 2% say exactly?
They usually link it sometimes to the gases that is caused by natural disasters or natural activities, especially volcanoes. And also they are relating into the sunlight and how much the radiology of the sunlight is affecting actually the planet. But again, now the simple and very direct point to the definition of climate change from my point of view is the disaster. Actually nothing more effective to define such a new trend of big crisis that we're gonna face in every single moment of our life is that this phenomenon is more and more causing disasters and extreme weather disasters, which is causing for sure a lot of problems, and actually more and more is raising the question of disappearance of some states, especially the small island states, that they are very, very near to the sea level, and scientific reports are saying that within next 50 years sea level gonna rise between 2 to 5 meters. So in the UN negotiations about climate change convention, some states are coming to the negotiation not in order to see the causes or to discuss the causes of such a subject on their economy, like the China or the US administration is negotiating for, but actually they are also negotiating on whether they're gonna continue on their lands or they're gonna be considered refugees that they're gonna transfer to other states and other lands. So it's something really more and more causing a major problem, and no one can solve it alone. Because of this, all the states now are debating and trying to negotiate to reach a new agreement in 2015 in Paris, but just because that they know very well that neither the US or China or India or Russia can do something alone. It's something that all efforts can be joined together in order to reach a solution.
Do you think the solution is actually possible? Do you think it's something that they simply talk about, but the other economic considerations are what really factor into the issue? Do you think these countries will not consider the environment to be important enough?
If we want to be a little bit optimistic, we're gonna hope that there is a solution, but some scientists are saying that it is too late actually. We're gonna be affected. Even if the countries will agree on a new convention that they're gonna lower their carbon emissions, actually nothing gonna be changed, because now the CO2 concentration in the planet is reaching around 400 ppm, and we need to go back to the 350 ppm in order to for the 2 degrees change in the temperature not to happen, and this something must be done now. Governments are negotiating to do it on 2020.
It's not going to be enough. And
even if in the 2020 that all the countries will agree on implementing the reduction program, and even if it is monitored and there is no corruption in announcing the reports of the reduction, 2050 is gonna be the middle of the century, and it's gonna be the year of the big question of the continuance of the Earth in the way that it is now actually acting, especially in the 2 major issues: how much the temperature gonna affect the nature and the human being, and also the sea level and the extreme weather activities. And one of the latest example for sure is the typhoon, extreme hurricane that caused the death of more than 6,000 people.
So how would you say that this type of global warming, these disastrous consequences, how would they affect, for example, Lebanon?
The latest report about Lebanon that was announced by the Ministry of Environment was in 2012. I think now that they are preparing in 2014 for the 2nd national assessment on the climate change effectiveness on Lebanon. Unfortunately, areas like Hermel, for example, the predictions is saying that this area, unfortunately, if we continue with this phenomenon, it cannot be considered a livelihood area in 2070, which is something that really, and even sometimes if we are debating as a journalist about the case, and it happened that one of the journalists to be from that area, we will discuss with him the way that he gonna and his family choose another area to live on.
So why exactly would this happen? Would these areas be more prone to earthquakes, more prone to disasters?
No, it's something related to the temperature degree, and this area actually now is facing in extreme weather conditions, especially in the long summer and the very high temperature in summer. Sometimes it reached 40. If we are speaking about 2 more degrees within the next 50 years, this will cause a real, the area will gonna be a big desert. And this is something that it's also related to the borders in Syria in parallel to this area and to some part of Turkey. And this area is in all the maps is highlighted in a red squares, and they are considering that the temperature level in this area gonna be higher than any other areas. For sure, all the people living on the seashore, sometimes they feel happy that they are very near to the sea, but actually they have to reconsider their decision, especially the people that they are buying some apartments in real estate areas where the apartment is costing more than $2 million. Any rising in sea level will cause a big problem for all the people living on seashores. Agriculture on the seashore going to be affected.
So would this also be around 2070? Or?
Yeah, within the next 50 to 70 years. And when we are speaking about the level of the sea, we are not speaking about a tsunami that's going to hit the people. It's just a few centimeters that's going to cause a big disaster related to the infrastructure of the area, especially the administration of the sewage management and all the pipelines related to the sewage management in the seashore.
So before we go off for the break, can you quickly introduce to us COP19? What exactly was this conference? And you were there recently, so
yes,
what was it like?
This conference is the United Nations conference. It is the 19th conference for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The acronym is the UNFCCC. They were negotiating since 90s about the new step to reach a global agreement that will specify and describe how much we gonna reduce the carbon emissions in every country commitments. COP19 was a roadmap to reach an agreement in Paris in 2015. There's gonna be a COP20 in Peru next year and a COP21. All the people are hoping that's gonna be the major conference, and actually it's gonna be a summit where the high-level delegations and a lot of high-level representative of every country gonna come to Paris in order to sign a new agreement. All the green activists around the world are hoping that Paris will be a success, not to repeat the scenario of the big failure that happened in Copenhagen in 2009, where also was a major event in order to sign an agreement at that time. And this is why I was saying that maybe every time that the nations are postponing the signing of a new agreements, they are causing a bigger problem.
So we'll continue talking about these obstacles, but for right now, we'll be going off for a short break. Please stay tuned.
Around the world, outside the mainstream, anywhere, everywhere. A media of your land, of your creation. A new media in a new era. Will it take the lead in the future? I believe so. This is Underground.
Underground, when vague turns to clarity.
Welcome back. Before we continue our discussion with Mr. Kantar, please take a second to look at the second report.
The following is a summary of some headline statements made for policymakers. Starting by a general overview of the past decades, the report mentions that the atmosphere and the oceans have warmed, the amounts of snow and ice have diminished, sea levels have risen, and the concentrations of greenhouse gases have increased. In the Northern Hemisphere, the period between 1983 and 2012 was likely the warmest 30-year period of the last 1400 years. Over the period 1901 to 2010, global sea level rose by 0.19 meters. Whether human beings are responsible or not, policymakers believe that human influence on the climate system is clear. This is evident from the increasing greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, positive radioactive forcing, observed warming, and understanding of the climate system. They do also believe that the human influence has been detected in warming of the atmosphere and the ocean, changes in the global water cycle, reductions in snow and ice, global sea level rise, and changes in some climate extremes. As for the future, policymakers say that the global ocean will continue to warm during the 21st century. Heat will penetrate from the surface to the deep ocean and affect ocean circulation. It is very likely that the Arctic Sea ice cover will continue to shrink and thin, and that Northern Hemisphere spring snow cover will decrease during the 21st century as global surface temperature rises, and global sea level will continue to rise during the 21st century.
So, Mr. Kantar, what are your comments on the video, and what exactly do you think is included, and what do you think is necessary for us to look at or to think important?
If we want to analyze videos, reports, and a lot of other publications related to the climate change, it is something that every day there is at least between 50 to 100 reports. Mm-hmm. Most of the scientific research centers, more than 7,000 non-governmental organizations, students, university students, and for sure specialized scientists are giving us every day a new alarm about climate change and the results of climate change. Mm-hmm. The report that I've mentioned at the beginning of the show, which is a report officially ratified by around 400 scientists around the world. The first chapter was in September, and it's speaking about the effects of climate change from a scientific point of view. But scientists are now not only debating about the results of climate change, they are also debating about how we're gonna at least lower the problem. Especially they are speaking about the new adaptation mechanism that every government should adopt, and also the mitigation, which is something related to the people reaction and the people way of saving the planet. Going back to COP19, there was a big march for the activists and the green activists from all Europe and the participants in the conference, and you can hear two main slogans. Leftists, for example, they were chanting that don't change the climate, change the system. And the Green Party of Europe, they were saying that do you want to fight the climate change, so change yourself. Actually, this is something that was under debate, and it's a continuous debate whether it is something related to the economical system that caused the climate change problem, or it is just the problem of the carbon print of every single citizen on this planet, and how much is consuming every day, and how much this is causing the climate change. And the famous quote of the late Venezuelan president Hugo Chavez, that he was saying that if the climate change is a bank, the US for sure gonna save him. So relating to the issue of the climate change to the political situation, the main debate now is related to the historical responsibility of the industrial countries that they caused in the last 100 years, the major change in the system of the and in the degree level of the Earth. Nations like China, India, and Brazil, for example, they were considering that we have to stick on the point of the historical responsibility of the industrial nations, and later on the European Union, US, Russia, and many others, Japan, were considering that if not China and India and other developed countries will be part of the reduction system of the carbon emissions, nothing gonna be happen. So now again, between the debate of the two major sharks, the China and the US, small groups affected, like the small islands group, and for example the Arab countries, a lot of countries in Asia, Latin America, they are in between on how to decide to deal with the issue. But for sure in COP19 the major let's say result was that all the people were asking for money. And the economical crisis that started 3 years ago and still affecting Europe and the States is the reason why the industrial nations are saying that they are not able to fund as much as they promised in COP16 in Copenhagen. At that moment, there was an announcement that they're gonna establish a green fund, and this fund gonna be injected with a more than $30 billion per year, starting from 2010 to 2012, and then they're gonna raise the amount of funding every year in order to reach $100 billion per year in 2020. This green fund were already established in the Doha Gateway decisions that were accepted and ratified last year in the COP18 in Doha. But now the announcement of giving or announcing that new commitments from the government to this fund is very low. The green fund is now, I think that they announced not more than $6 to $7 billion this year, and for sure part of the funding is related to the political commitments, and governments that they're gonna pay, they are asking for a more transparent way to spend the money. And one of the most important examples for the corruption in the climate change intervention or interventions from government is the RED program, which is related to the reforestation of a lot of areas, especially in Latin America and in Africa, where funders paid billions of dollars, and later on we discovered that trading in wood and the deforestation is something related to a big chance of the smugglers, that they are related to the political system and to the, especially to the high officers in the army, especially in Africa, where no one can really control the way of deforestation areas.
So we'll be coming back to this for some final comments right after we take a look at this last report for today, which gives us more information about the future of our planet.
Our planet is vast. It's difficult to comprehend the scale. It's difficult, too, to comprehend the scale of humanity and the vast changes we've wrought in a lifetime. Population, production, and consumption have grown exponentially. Roads, railways, airlines, shipping routes, the digital revolution. We've created a globally interconnected society. Evidence is mounting, we've entered the Anthropocene. Humanity is altering Earth's life support system. Carbon dioxide emissions are accelerating. Greenhouse gas levels are unprecedented in human history. The climate system is changing rapidly. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change assesses the risks and options for societies. Its latest report states it is extremely likely humans are the dominant cause of warming in the past 60 years. Without deep emissions cuts, it is likely Earth will cross the target of 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the target set by international policy. This could happen as early as 2050. If emissions keep rising at current rates, a 4-degree rise by 2100 is as likely as not. It's very likely heat waves will occur more often and last longer. The Arctic will warm faster than the global average. It's likely sea ice will all but vanish in summer within decades if high emissions continue. It's very likely sea level rise will accelerate. Cities and coastal areas are vulnerable. In general, wet regions are set to get wetter, dry regions drier. Monsoons are likely to become longer, their footprint likely to grow, and downpours likely to intensify. The acidity of the ocean has increased 26% since the start of the Industrial Revolution. The full consequences of all these changes on the Earth system are unknown. Humanity's carbon footprint is huge. Societies will need to adapt to climate change. The scale of change depends on decisions made now. Can we remain below 2 degrees? It is possible, but it is up to societies now to decide the future we want. For a likely chance of achieving the 2-degree target, societies can emit another 250 billion tons of carbon. We burn about 10 billion tons of carbon a year. At current rates, we will use this budget in about 25 years.
So, Mr. Kantar, before ending our episode for today, can you give us your final comments on the issue? What exactly do you think our future looks like in terms of global warming and in terms of climate change?
Global warming gonna be the major issue in the upcoming years. For sure, negotiations in the United Nations should be on a higher level. At the first conference, I think that only the Minister of Environment was responsible for such negotiations. Later on, the Minister of Power joined the negotiations. Many countries, the official delegations were headed by a Minister of Power, not a Minister of Environment. Now UN is asking for the Prime Minister and also the Minister of Finance to be part of the negotiations, because climate change is not only an environmental issues related just to something that it is affecting a one level or a one category. It is something that affects every major aspect of our life, and if they're really gonna do something, they have to do it within the next 2 years, and we are hoping that this gonna happen.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks to Mr. Kantar for joining us in the studio, and to you for watching. That's it for today. This was Eco-Terrorism, and I'm Zeinab Bailoun. See you next week.